As we proceed, viewer discretion is highly advised. The following content is presented for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is a verbatim transcript of federal courtroom testimony from the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported. No one expected Sean Diddy Combs to stand trial for anything, let alone something that could strip him of his crown, his fortune, and the reputation he had spent 3 decades carefully polishing. When whispers of witness tampering first leaked, most of the industry laughed them off. Diddy was bulletproof, they said. He had survived bad deals, broken friendships, and 1,000 tabloid betrayals. He could buy silence the way ordinary people buy groceries, easily, casually, with small bills and a nod. But this time was different. Somewhere deep inside the Manhattan criminal courthouse, beneath the marble floors polished by decades of scandal, a tiny piece of evidence waited, small enough to fit in a pocket, powerful enough to detonate everything he thought was secure. For months, the trial had been a circus of flashing cameras and whispered threats. Reporters staked out every corridor, hungry for a slip, a tear, a flicker of guilt. Diddy, in tailored suits worth the average salary of 3 court clerks combined, breezed in daily behind mirrored sunglasses, surrounded by a wall of security and silence. His smirk was a mask carved by years of surviving envy and lawsuits. He played the part of the wronged king perfectly, until his own lawyer found out the truth. Anthony K. Bradshaw had been with Diddy for more than 15 years. He was the kind of attorney whose name alone sent shivers through prosecutors and made witnesses forget what they'd seen. Tall, lean, gray-haired but sharp-eyed, Bradshaw believed there was no case too tangled to unravel, no charge too ugly to wash clean in front of a jury. He believed in the story Diddy sold him, that this trial was just a smear campaign by greedy rivals and disloyal insiders. Then, 3 nights before the most crucial cross-examination of the trial, Bradshaw received an envelope slipped under his door at the Midtown Hotel where he prepared for court. Inside, a note typed in block letters, "For your conscience. Play it alone," and a small USB drive taped to the paper. He stared at it for nearly an hour before he dared plug it into the burner laptop he used for confidential files. He locked the suite door, silenced his phone, poured 2 fingers of whiskey he did not drink, then clicked play. He expected a prank, or maybe a blackmail attempt. This was the high-wire world he lived in. But what he heard shredded every argument he'd crafted for his opening statement. On the recording, the voice was unmistakable. Years of interviews, albums, radio rants. Bradshaw knew Diddy's voice better than his own. Calm, low, with that soft arrogance money cannot buy, Diddy spoke in clipped commands. "You know what to do. She can't be on that stand. Not if I'm staying clean. You handle it, no questions, no loose ends." A second voice, lower, hesitant, murmured, "Understood." Click. Silence. Bradshaw replayed it. Once, twice, 6 times, until he felt physically sick. This was no rumor, no manipulated edit. He could hear the familiar echoes of the back room at Diddy's Miami estate, could almost smell the stale cigar smoke. There it was, the final nail. Witness tampering. Worse, an order to disappear a human being. If the DA's office got this in front of the jury, no closing argument in the world could save his client. All night he sat there, hunched over his laptop, while New York glowed silently outside his window. He thought about the oath he'd sworn as a young lawyer. His duty to defend, yes, but also to serve the court and the truth. He thought about the judge, a no-nonsense woman with a razor-sharp mind who had warned him privately. "If you're playing games, Mr. Bradshaw, you'll lose more than your license." He thought about the woman on that stand, about the fear she must have felt if she'd known these words existed. And he knew what he had to do. When the sun cracked through the skyscrapers, Bradshaw stood in front of his bathroom mirror, practicing what he would say to his client. He found no words that could soften the betrayal. He found no script to spin a direct command to commit obstruction of justice into an innocent mistake. The next morning, cameras waited outside the courthouse as usual. Reporters barked questions, hoping to catch some slip. A tremor in his voice, a crack in his confidence. Bradshaw offered none. He walked through the front doors, briefcase in hand, refusing to glance back at the black SUV that trailed behind him, tinted windows hiding the king whose empire was about to bleed in public. Inside, a hush fell as the bailiff called the court to order. Diddy lounged in his chair, sunglasses perched on his nose, expensive cologne drifting through the air like arrogance distilled. He didn't stand when Bradshaw arrived at the defense table. He just smirked, leaned in, and whispered, "We're good, yeah?" Bradshaw didn't answer. He faced the judge instead, voice clear, hand steady on the microphone. "Your Honor," he began, and the room went so quiet, the only sound was the distant hum of the building's ancient vents. "I respectfully move to withdraw as counsel for the defendant, Mr. Sean Combs." A gasp. Someone in the gallery cursed under their breath. Diddy sat up, the smirk flickering into confusion, then anger. He hissed, "Tony, what the hell are you doing?" But Bradshaw didn't look at him. He looked only at the judge, as if Diddy was just a ghost now, a memory wrapped in tailor-made wool. The judge's eyes narrowed. She knew Bradshaw too well to think he'd make this move lightly. "Mr. Bradshaw, grounds?" He swallowed, feeling the weight of every secret he had protected for 15 years. "Conflict of interest, Your Honor. I cannot continue representation in accordance with my ethical duties." Murmurs rose around the room. The prosecution shifted forward like wolves smelling blood. Bradshaw felt Diddy's stare burning a hole through his skull. Betrayal, disbelief, a promise of retribution that meant nothing now that the truth had claws. Behind the scenes, the recording had already reached the DA's office. Bradshaw had ensured that before stepping into court. He could not speak of it on the record yet, but he knew its echo would thunder through every headline by nightfall. Diddy slammed his palm on the table. "You walk out now, I bury you. I swear to God, Bradshaw." But Bradshaw only shook his head once, a man finally unburdened. "I wish you luck, Mr. Combs." The judge granted the motion to withdraw. She set a brief recess, ordered the defense to find replacement counsel immediately, and reminded everyone present that witness tampering, if proven, would carry consequences beyond prison time. As Bradshaw gathered his files, leaving behind the trial exhibits that now meant nothing, he allowed himself a glance at his former client. Diddy's mask was cracking. The king was just a man now, desperate and cornered, his empire rattling under the weight of his own words. Outside, the courthouse steps became a battlefield of microphones and camera flashes. Reporters swarmed, shouting questions Bradshaw ignored. He pushed through the chaos, refusing to answer the only question that mattered. "What did you hear that made you walk away?" He didn't owe them an answer. He didn't owe Diddy anything anymore. Inside the courthouse, chaos reigned. The sudden exit of Bradshaw, the once invincible legal titan, sent Diddy's new team scrambling. Young associates made frantic phone calls to crisis PR handlers, while paralegals huddled in corners, whispering about the recording none of them had heard, but all of them now feared. Outside, public opinion flipped overnight. For years, Diddy's charm had kept accusations at bay. Tabloid flings, sudden settlements, Whispered threats brushed away with a wink and a platinum smile. But one leaked audio clip shattered the image faster than any rumor ever could. On social media, hashtags trended within hours. Number Diddy exposed, number the recording, number justice for her. Fan pages turned vigilante overnight, dissecting every word, every pause in that chilling voice command. Podcast hosts and YouTube lawyers held marathon breakdowns, replaying the line, "No loose ends." In rap forums and gossip blogs, old beefs resurfaced. Former rivals hinted they had always known. They just hadn't had the guts or the proof to speak first. Now, they smelled fresh blood. For the prosecution, the audio was a gift from the heavens. They filed emergency motions to authenticate and admit the recording as key evidence. Diddy's new lawyer, a young, ambitious woman named Teresa Ramirez, begged for time to verify its source, to spin a defense, to do anything but watch her notorious client crumble before her eyes. It was useless. The judge moved swiftly. A jury that once seemed half-awed by Diddy's presence now sat stony-faced each time his voice replayed from the court's overhead speakers. Prosecutors framed it simply. No conspiracy theory, no rival label sabotage, just Diddy's own words, damning and direct, speaking orders that no lawyer, no matter how brilliant, could explain away. Diddy tried to reclaim control the only way he knew how: intimidation. He glared at Ramirez when she stuttered under cross-examination. He cursed under his breath when the prosecution replayed the recording. He barked at co-counsel when their motions were denied, but each tantrum only deepened the sense that he was finished. A king refusing to admit he'd already lost the throne. Meanwhile, Bradshaw watched from far away. He had vanished to a lakeside cabin in upstate New York, turned off his phone, ignored the torrent of messages begging for comment. He spent days pacing the cold wooden floor, replaying his last moments in that courtroom. Some nights he regretted not walking sooner. Other nights he wondered if he should have buried the recording, protected his client one last time. But deep down, he knew he'd done the only thing left for a man trying to salvage his own soul. Back in Manhattan, Diddy's fortune bled dry in real time. Sponsors fled. Luxury brands tore down billboards overnight. Streaming services quietly demonetized whole catalogs of music. Former friends ghosted his calls. Artists who once owed him favors now laughed behind locked doors, refusing to lift a finger to help him rebuild. Through it all, the woman whose testimony he'd tried to silence became a reluctant symbol. She never asked to be famous. Yet overnight, she found herself hailed as the one voice brave enough to stand against an empire of silence. In interviews, she spoke with calm clarity. She described the threats, the unmarked cars outside her apartment, the men who lurked at the back of concerts, pretending to be security. When the verdict finally came, no one was surprised. The recording sealed everything. Even the best defense strategies couldn't erase the simplicity of those few seconds of audio. The jury deliberated for barely 2 days. Reporters lined up outside the courthouse steps in the freezing dawn, breath fogging as they read prepared statements and speculated on whether Diddy would cry or rage when the judge spoke. He did neither. When the foreman said guilty, he sat motionless. The glasses were gone, the tailored suits replaced by a plain, dark jacket. He looked small in the giant oak courtroom, just another man caught by the evidence of his own arrogance. As officers cuffed him, flashbulbs strobed through the high windows. Fans cried. Enemies cheered. The recording played again on every screen in Times Square. An echo of fame turned poison. In the weeks that followed, the industry Diddy once ruled scrambled to survive the scandal. Labels rebranded. Collaborators issued statements condemning him. Music historians rewrote chapters. Podcasts promised exclusive series dissecting the rise and ruin of Sean Combs. Some called it karma. Some called it tragedy. All agreed. It had been inevitable the moment power convinced him he could say anything behind closed doors. Bradshaw, watching from afar, never returned to practice. He sent a single letter to the Bar Association explaining his resignation, citing a moral breach that could not be repaired. Then he disappeared entirely. Rumor places him somewhere in rural Vermont, tending a quiet garden far removed from rap feuds and courtroom ambushes. In the end, the empire fell not to rivals, nor to betrayal, nor to tabloid poison. It fell because one man, certain he was untouchable, gave a simple command he never thought anyone would hear. One line that cut through the lies more cleanly than any witness ever could. She disappears. No loose ends. And for the first time in his life, there were. Do subscribe. Turn on notifications. Stay vigilant on this channel. And remember, some secrets can't stay buried forever, because more witnesses are coming forward daily. New evidence is being uncovered.